So just checking in with everybody. Let me know if you're there, okay? Because it's been a few weeks since I did a live. So let me know if you're there. Let's see. Do I have comments? There we go. Comments and reactions. Hey, there we go. Okay, great. I see somebody coming in from YouTube, and no doubt we'll have somebody coming in from Facebook here in just a second. So you guys bear with us while we kind of get everybody into the room here, and we'll get started. Yeah, I see there's Miss Margot. Hey, and here, hey Jay, how are you doing? Carol, it's good to see you, and Laura Chapman and Lorshan, it's good to see you too as well. So woohoo! So I see that you guys are popping in. I would like to know if the quality is horrible or acceptable. I got a notice just now that said that it lowered the quality of my stream. I am in La Vida with the best internet that I can certainly muster. So, oh, hey from Dubai. It's great to see you, Marcia. Thank you for joining in. And hey, Cindy, it's good to see you. So it's freezing up. Of course, now freezing up could be on your end. I have to say that. So I'm looking for, oh, Maria, it's good to see you too from Kiev. It's good to see you from the Ukraine. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, I've got some surprises for you today, by the way. So we're going to have some fun. Thank you for joining all the way from the UK. You guys, you make me so happy. Thank you so much for joining in. Let me give you just a little update on what's going to transpire here. We are going to do, I'm going to start with a piece of music for you that I've already recorded. And if you follow me on Facebook, you may have heard it. But just because, you know, I do music and it's not as easy to play from the house because we tried doing a live stream from my house on the mountain and it was horrible and kept shutting down. So I decided the better way to do that is just to play something for you via video. And then I'm going to give you a little Lizzie Albright update, so you can expect that. And I know that you signed in because I've got a brand new quilt that I've finished, and I'm going to share it with you. And I'm supposing that we're probably at least about 12 minutes away from that. So if all you care about is seeing the new quilt, go get yourself a cup of coffee or something like that and come back. But I'm going to try to give you some fun stuff here on the front end of everything. So what I'm going to start with for you is a piece of music that I recorded this past Sunday. It's Simple Gifts. Now, I've been playing Simple Gifts for years on the piano, but I did a new arrangement for it this past Sunday. And people are always asking me, how do I, they're not singing any music, so do I have it memorized? The truth of the matter is, I sit down at the organ, I turn on the camera, and I start playing. And I will probably mess up because I'm trying to make it up as I go, and I'm trying to arrange it at the same time. So it's playing from the heart. It's not just playing by ear. It's using my knowledge of theory to try to make things work. And I usually screw up pretty good a couple of times. But after about 15 minutes, I kind of get where I want to go with it. And on this particular arrangement, I sat down and everything was going pretty darn good because I wanted to do a kind of a crazy improv on the third verse. So that's near the end. And then I got to the final few chords and I just crashed a couple of chords. It won't sound horrible to you, but it made me laugh. And I posted passion over perfection. And I do believe that. Turn down my volume, I've been told. So there, I'll try that. And maybe Alex can give me some guidance on that because it sounds like the volume was a little bit, yeah, that looks like it should be better. Oh, by the way, I found out some fun things. If I wanted to do something like, if it's still popping, I don't know what to do because it's all down. So hopefully that's better. But look what I can do. I can go. Whoa, that was so much fun. I didn't know I could do that. And everybody, so anyway, so I messed up at the end, but it doesn't matter because my message to you is that it's always more important to give your passion and to give your very, very, very best from your heart more than it is perfection. So I didn't go back and redo it again. I just left the little glitches and said that's the way it'll be because it was for YouTube. So here I go. I'm going to play for you Simple Gifts, and thank you all for continuing to chime in. It's really great to see you. So here we go. Oh, let me do this. So you guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. Now I'm still trying to read some comments. I want to try something here for my own self. I have something called use echo cancellation. If I click it on, you need to tell me if you do you still hear me? Do you still hear me? I'm looking for responses. Do you still hear me if I'm using echo cancellation? Do you still hear me if I'm using echo cancellation? One final time. I'm looking for a response. Do you still hear me if I'm using echo cancellation? So I'm waiting for some responses here from Yakima. Clapping. Yes, Mary Bailey. Hey, it's good to see you. Clap, clap, clap. So I'm looking for Ricky from Liberty. Hey, Judy. 'Tis a gift to be it's a gift to be free. Yes, you still hear me. Okay, very good. All right, we're going to go with this then. I'm going to keep watching the comments. So if there's anything you need to tell me, I will certainly share with you that information. So text edit and back to eStream. So, all right. So I want to let all of you know that finally Lizzie Albright is at the presses. She will be shipping to me on August like the 5th. And by the time all the books and all the boxes get here and we start shipping on around the August 10th or 11th. So if you have pre-ordered your Lizzie Albright novel or the bundle, those will be shipping to you like in early August. So I'm excited about that and wanted to share that with you. I also want to share with you something fun that you can do. And if you're not familiar with Lizzie, it's a novel that I've written with Kat Bowser. And I'm going to go to Safari and I want to go to share my screen. So I think you're able to see my screen now. Let's go to Safari. Oh, come on. Yeah, hopefully you can see my screen. Let's go. Why can't I get rid of that? Let's move that over there. Hopefully you can see what I've got going. But it's at lizziealbright.com. Look up at the top, Lizzy, albright.com. And click on the scavenger hunt, because there's a little scavenger hunt. You have to get the right answers, but I've told you where to find those answers. So be sure to go and do the scavenger hunt. And here's my encouragement. If you've got a youngster, even if they're not with you, send them the link, have them do the scavenger hunt. So far, I haven't had anybody under the age of 35 do the scavenger hunt. So I'm looking for kids to get involved, and this is the way to get started, and you'll have fun. It might take you all of 5 minutes, so it's not going to take you a really long time to go and do the scavenger hunt at the Lizzie Albright website. So please go do that for me. I'd love that. All right, so now I got to go back to eStream and go back to my camera so that you guys are there. And I'm now going to go and give you, I'm going to reveal the quilt. So you've been asking about this. Well, probably haven't asking because you didn't really even know. Back during the month of May, we are approaching the deadline for the International Quilt Association Judge Show. I am currently the president of IQA, and things were changing on a daily basis, and people were saying, can you give us more time due to COVID for deadlines? And the offices in Houston were trying to accommodate those requests, and I really wanted to make a quilt for the show this year, but also due to my incredibly overwhelming situation with COVID, trying to deal with my own personal business and all that's going on with that. I'm not even going to get into all that for you guys, but it's been overwhelming. And trying to get Lizzie off to the printer, I still tried to find a way to make a quilt for Houston. And people are always asking, well, Ricky, you're doing the photography and thank you for the music, but are you quilting? And the answer is sometimes yes, because I do a lot of quilts sometimes for the quilt show whenever we're doing a taping. I've done some for that. Or sometimes I'm trying to create a pattern, and I've done some for that. And I do have time to quilt on my own occasionally, but this quilt I was trying to keep secret. I didn't want anybody to know about it. So people think I'm not quilting, but the truth was I was quilting, and I just couldn't tell you. So since we have now obviously learned that the Houston show is not going on, and I don't know if my quilt was accepted or not accepted because nobody got that word either, I decided it's time to share with you my quilt. It's called Music of the Spheres, and here we go. 1, 2, 3. There it is. I'm just going to give you a second to look at it. Flowing curves, hand-dyed fabric, circles, transparency, a lot of variety of quilting, and it's called the Music of the Spheres. This quilt is about diversity, which has also been a topic during these recent days, and how that we are all different, but we are all needed to come together to make one. And so this quilt is a very much about different colors, different shapes, different sizes, and we all fit together in this universe to make one very beautiful thing. So it's called Music of the Spheres, and it is my response to what's been going on in my life and in the life of many people during these times. So I do hope that you enjoy seeing the quilt. Now, I've got a lot to share with you today about this quilt, and I'm going to show you the process. So let me hide this quilt now. And I need to go to my PowerPoint or my keynote presentation for you so that you can see this. So let me go to eStream. Boy, I'll tell you, I can't get to my slides very well this way, but let's go to eStream, eCam, share my screen, and go here and go play. So this is the quilt. Hopefully it's showing a little bit bigger for you there now. Probably I should just go ahead and get another little confidence from everybody that you are seeing the quilt on the screen. Oh, and Donna, thank you so much. That means so much to me. Thank you so much for your kindness. I know some of you are watching from Facebook, some of you are on YouTube, and some of you are in different places of Facebook. But anyway, so this is where I start. I start with a drawing. Now, this is 2 sheets of freezer paper, and you can see in the middle that I've overlapped them and ironed them together. So they're normally 18 inches. So with the overlap, I assume that this is approximately 35 inches square at this point. This is where I started. I drew freehand the swoops. I used a compass to draw the circles. And I knew that I wanted, this is on freezer paper, and I knew that I wanted this to have this kind of transparency going on. So this is what I started with for my drawing. Now, it's really important that I put registration marks on that drawing, because as I start sewing these seams together, and I'm going to share with you today my technique, and it does not use 1/4 inch seams. So this technique is more precise, and there's no pinning, and I love using this technique, so I'm going to get to that. But it does involve using these registration marks. So that's what I did next. And you can see in some places I'll put registration marks close together, but most of the time they're kind of spaced apart, and I keep them uneven just because it helps me put the puzzle together whenever I'm looking at that. All right, I'm going to show you this for real in a minute, but I'm still going through the steps while I was making the quilt. I will take my freezer paper and cut out the shape, and I'm going to iron it to my fabric where I want it to go. Then I'm going to do a line of stitching that does not touch the paper. So here you see, and actually on the bottom side of this, I think I'm a bit too far away from the paper. On the upper left side, I think it's just right. So I do not want to be touching the paper. I like to think that I've got enough room for my needle to go between the paper and the thread, the stitching. So that distance, I don't give it a measurement. I call it a breadth. I give it a breadth distance from the edge of the paper to where I'm sewing. You can do this with any color thread that you like, because it's going to get hidden in the seam allowance later. Thank you, Miss Margaret. I see your comment. Thank you so much. All right, so now this is showing the quilting process. I knew fairly well that there were some pieces that I was going to be okay with, because I'm building this on the design wall. I may actually cut out a piece of fabric and do the stay stitching and pin it up to the wall. Normally I actually have flannel on my wall, but this is my new design wall. It does not have flannel, so I had to use a lot of pins. But if you look at the main circle that's starting to be built, you'll notice that those 2 pieces in each blade, I'll call them blades, they've already been sewn together because I'm confident with my choice. I've decided what I want. But I'm not yet ready to start sewing the pieces together because I'm still wanting to put things up on my design wall and feel free to make some changes. So here we are. I'm probably, a little more than a third finished with my fabric selections, but most of what you see on the wall is not sewn together. It has only been cut out and the stay stitching has been done. And I also transfer the registration marks, which I will talk about in a moment. If I feel like, since most of you are seeing the video, that if it's freezing, I don't think it's coming from me, but if it is, I've learned that on the final version of YouTube, if you go back and watch, the freezing is all removed. So double check that out. All right, so here I am moving forward, trying to make my fabric selections, and I have very much freedom. I'm very free to make any changes as I continue working and taking my photos. If there's something that I feel isn't quite right, and it happens quite often, I can take it out and replace it. Now also, as much impact as this quilt has, I want you to realize it doesn't have so many pieces. I don't know how many pieces this has, but if I said it had 40 pieces or 45 or 50 pieces, there's some quilt blocks that we make in quilting that have 35 or 40 pieces in them. So this is big pieces, big flowing pieces, and easy to put together. All right, so here I am starting to sew some seams together. You'll see the whole top portion has been sewn together using the method that I use, and going from there. Now, here it is all sewn together except for the two circles, the two smallest circles, the really bright yellowy green one and the orangey reddish one. Those were meant to be sewn in to the final circle. That's where that would be. But I was not yet satisfied with the color of those. I felt that they jumped out at me too much, and I wasn't ready to do that. So eventually I changed those two circles and I made them a little more subtle and found fabrics that I thought worked a little bit better for me, so they didn't jump out. Hello, Miss Martha Pullen. It's good to see you too. Thank you for being such a great fan. I love you too. And thank you so much. These are my hand-dyed fabrics. I've dyed them myself. Many of them are not from my regular line of hand-dyed fabrics that we sell, because sometimes I just go in and act like a mad scientist and I just throw dyes on fabric just to see what I can get. But yes, if you go to rickytims.com and go to the online store, the best deal that you can get from us right now is the buy 5, because if you buy 5, it's basically 20% off, and it's hard to do with just one fabric. So yes, you can go to rickytims.com, go to the online store, go to the fabrics, hand-dyed fabrics, and look for the 5 fabric bundle. We have a 10 fabric bundle, a 15 fabric bundle, and the more you buy, the more you save. So I'm just letting you know, yes, these are my hand-dyed fabrics. But here's the crazy thing. When I got to here, I thought it's not big enough. And I did not expect to do this, but I turned it on point. I got more freezer paper. I had to very accurately, now I did this on a tabletop, this is shot on the wall, but I had to continue the flowing lines, as you see, and I have now 4 triangles of freezer paper that have been put on the outside edge so that I can continue this design and make it a little bit bigger. I wasn't expecting it, but the quilt is what said do it. So I did. And then I began doing the same process with everything to add the 4 sides onto this quilt. And there you go. This is how this one's going to turn out. It made it bigger. It made it more powerful. It ended up being, I think, around 47 inches or something like that. Can't be exactly sure. I don't remember. I'd have to go look in my records. But so Cindy has asked if I'm sewing these seams like caveman. I'm going to show you this in a moment. I am not using caveman. This could never, ever be precise if I was improvising. So I am not improvising. I'm using templates, and I'm going to use a very, very accurate method for sewing this together, and I'm going to show you that. So someone said that it's not freezing on YouTube, but it was freezing on Facebook, just so you know. All right, now this is the quilting that's on here. This is a sketch of the quilting. This is actually a teaser because sometime next week I'm going to go through and teach you how I've done these designs, how I've marked the quilt, and how I've quilted it. But I want you to see the quilting because the quilting is the next step. So I'll linger on these a little bit just so that you can see the quilting. In this particular picture, you can also see where the precision patchwork comes together at that point. So these are details of the quilting. At the very, very bottom, you can see that my stipple in this particular area is not the same kind of stipple you might normally see on a stippled quilt. This is the back of the quilt while I'm quilting. It's obviously not completed on this particular picture, but I flipped it over so to show you that the tension on the back has to look good. This is done on a domestic machine. I'm free motion quilting. I am not marking every single little thing. I am only marking my guides, and I will show you how to do that next week, so come back for that. But this is the back of the quilt, and I do not stitch on a long arm. I'm using my regular domestic machine, machine quilted, domestic machine, not a long arm, not computerized. It's like drawing with a pencil. All right, so here's another design as it's in process. And here it is continuing. And another design going from big to little or little to big, however you look at it, but it's got to be done. It's only guides are marked. I do not mark everything that you see. All right, so there's some quilting, and we're going to revisit the quilting next week, like I said. So please keep track of the Facebook. You know, many of you follow the Quilt Show with Alex Anderson and Ricky Timms on Facebook. You can also go to my public figure page, which is facebook.com/Ricky Timms. If you just do facebook.com/Ricky Timms and like that page, you can also get all of the announcements from there as well. I love this particular design because it looks like it's warping and stretching. I do not use rulers. No, the answer is no, I don't use rulers. I do free motion. None of this is straight lines, so this is not ruler work. I mean, you can do curves as well with rulers, but none of this is ruler work. And yes, the hand dyes are the most color-fast fabrics you can buy. We would encourage you to pre-wash them once more in your own hot water. But Procyon MX fiber reactive dyes are the most color-fast dyes in the world. They're very, very color-fast, unless you go to polyester, and this is not polyester. All right. Hello, everybody. Oh, let's do this. I don't know if I can do this. I don't think I can do that, so I'll do that later. Anyway, there's the guy, and you can see the size of the quilt. It's not huge, but it's not small. And there I am sitting at my sewing machine doing what it is that I've talked to you about so far. And there again is the quilt. All right, so now I want to just give you a sample. So because some of you might want to try this. This is how I started for my sample. I took a piece of freezer paper. This is about 18 inches square. I drew 2 swooping lines and a circle. And to put this together, I'm going to first cut it apart, but I do not cut it all apart. I also put the registration lines on. Remember, the little registrations are very important everywhere. So in this case, I'm going to cut that one long swoop, and I'm going to cut that little half moon or that little portion arc out, and I've got 2 templates. I am not going to cut, and as far as the planet, Cindy, it's kind of the planets and the, I don't know, the galaxies. It's just let it be what you want it to be. For me, it's just the universe is beautiful when it's all together. And so we're all different. All the planets are different. The stars are different. All of us on this earth are different, and we all need each other, and we need to come together. So I don't cut apart the entire piece of paper because that makes a puzzle. I don't need a puzzle. So in this case, I'm just going to cut apart those two templates, and now I've got to go back to eStream and get back to you guys, exit the full screen, come here, and I will show you how I do this live. So go back to, hey, am I there? How did you like it? Yeah, I thought it was really like magic. All right, so, hey, you guys, there it is, right here in front of me, right? So, wanted to give you a little chance to see this up close and personal today, and hope that you enjoy that. So, let me then pull this onto the top. I've got my studio out at the house with all my other gear, but I'm in my studio on a tiny little table here, so I'm just trying to pull out what I can pull out and show you. All right, remember this? I'll go this direction. I'll work upside down. This is what you just saw on the screen, right? So you can get a better feel for what this looks like. The next thing I'm going to do, and by the way, because of the angle of the screen and how far I am with my bad eyes, whatever you're asking me right now, I cannot see. So I'm going to have to just do this. So I've cut my paper off. I've cut both of these pieces. I've ironed them, and I've stay stitched them. So if you look, oh, there you can see the stay stitching. I actually did it in orange so that you can see it better. And you can see the distance that I stitched. Now I'm going to take and put my pencil marks into the seam allowance. And I actually scrub. I use a regular pencil, and I basically just scrub like you're seeing, just kind of back and forth, and I can end up seeing this pencil mark on dark fabrics and on light fabrics because it makes a shiny mark so I can see it. Now, I need to trim this, but let me explain something for you before I do, because this is very critical in my work. On all of these internal seams, they're going to be trimmed smaller than a 1/4 inch. You'll see that in a moment. But anything that's the outside edge, all the way around, anything that's the outside, I like to leave it about a 1/2 inch, or it could even be bigger, because I'm going to have to finish this at some point, and I don't want my outside seam allowance to be itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini, all right? I want that to be plenty big. So when I trim this, this guy is going to get trimmed all the way around. So I simply use my rotary cutter. Why aren't you going? Go, go, go. Why aren't you working? You worked this morning just fine. Oh, push it down, push it up. Sorry, not used to it. And there, all right? This one's going to go. Notice that I am staying less than a 1/4 inch from the paper, not from the stitching, and it will hold. The biggest pitfall I have with my students is they want to trim this too big. Occasionally somebody trims it too small, which is even worse. But I want this to be a reasonable distance, but not a 1/4 inch. All right, on this one, I'm going to trim that. Notice that I actually use my other hand to kind of guide this. I always want to be looking in there and seeing where it's cutting. This one is going to get cut there, and that's too big, so I'm going to come in here and get a little more off of that. And the outside edge, I just want to leave it big. So I'm okay with it being that size. I'll get some of this little torn area off, but it's still a good 1/2 inch seam allowance. And that's prepared. Now, when I'm done with all of that, I end up going back to the design wall. I've done all my marking. I've done the stay stitching. I've trimmed so the freezer paper can go away. And when I say go away, I don't mean really go away, because I always put this, I pin this to my design wall, because if I want to change this piece of fabric because I don't like it, I can find this template and it will fit. I don't have another template in the quilt that's this size or this shape, so I do not number them. I just go find the template I want, and I usually organize them in sections so I know what section to go to, and I may have 3 or 4 sections per quilt. All right. Now, you always know, especially if it's hand-dyed fabric, you know what side is up because the registration marks are on the side that had the paper. So if I was to accidentally flip this over and I don't see registration marks, then I have the wrong side. So I need this to fit right in here. Now, I'm going to go to the machine, and showing you this is going to be a little bit challenging, but I still will do it anyway. I personally typically use my number 1 foot for this. I don't generally, I don't know if I can get any closer or not, but I will try. I think it's going to fall, the box is going to fall off. I'm going to take this right side up, put this right sides together, and I need to get the angle of this stitching on the angle of that stitching. And that's where I most want to start, getting that angle lined up just right, and I will start at the end. Now, I am using a regular 1/4 inch foot, but I am not using the edge of the foot as my sewing guide. I am using just the needle, and I am now going to lay the stay stitching on top of the top one, on top of the stay stitching that's on the bottom one, and I'm going to just pull that around and make sure that I am stitching just to the left of the stay stitching. How far am I stitching to the left? That breadth distance that we talked about that I used previously, and I just lay the stitches on top of the stitches, and if I need to give a tug or an ease to make these registration marks fit, then I will. And you can see as I'm going through this, and of course I know you're at a bit of a distance, but I am absolutely laying the stay stitching on top of the stay stitching, and I'm playing peekaboo to make sure that my registration marks are matching. And I'm trying to sew just that hairline of a distance on the inside. Now hold your breath, everybody, because I'm coming to the end, and we want to see how well I have done this stitching. By the way, this is how I've made all of my Rhapsody quilts. This is how I made my quilt called Simple Gifts. I'm sorry I don't have a picture for you, but I'll have to show it to you some other time. And as I come to the end, matching the registration marks, sewing off, let's see how I've done. Woohoo! All right, so here's what I want you to see first. I go to the end. How did the registration marks do? I mean, how did the stay stitching do? All right, I'm off a teensy smidgen right there, but it's not enough to bother me. Then I go to the other side and I look. All right, now then, do you see the stay stitching that's showing in there? I'm going to go in and take a little bit of a bite just to pull that back to the inside because my fabric slipped just a tad. So let's do that. And let me get that so it looks a little bit better for you. All right, I still have one in there, but you get the idea on this seam. And I'm now going to press this. In this case, I'm going to press it so that it looks like it's an applique circle. And in all of the quilt, for the Music of the Spheres quilt, I did not ever, well, I did. I had 2 circles that I had to put in. Those were the 2 circles that you saw, but most all of the other circles, let me show this up. Most of these other circles all just happened. I only had 2 circles that I ended up ultimately appliquing. It's the one near the bottom and the one that's kind of focused where all the stuff comes together. Those are the 2 in the quilt. So now I can look at your comments a little bit, you guys. I hope this has been fun for you. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I put that quilt together. Take a quick look to see if there's anything on my list that I might have forgot to tell you. Friday, of course, Friday. Friday, I am going to be sharing with you the Lizzie Albright quilt. And I also am going to reveal that it was hand quilted. I'm going to show all of that and talk about the fabrics, the kits, and how we go through doing all of that. So I really am excited to meet with you on, not Friday, Thursday. I said Friday, I meant Thursday. Thursday at the same time, 11 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 Pacific Time, noon and Central, and over on the East Coast, it'll be 1 p.m. So that's my new quilt, everybody. Very excited about it, and it means a lot to me, and I hope that seeing it means a lot to you. I think when I think about my quilts, I think they look complex for the most part. I mean, a lot of my quilts look complex. I try to have big impact. I try to make them look like, well, that doesn't look like a bear paw or a double wedding ring or some of the traditional stuff that we do. But the technique that I use to make those complex quilts is really easier. I think you saw I didn't have to pin anything. I just had to follow a stitching line. And it's ultimately a little bit easier of a technique, and it can be more precise, but you have to still stay precise along every step. You've got to trim the right way. You have to be consistent with your stay stitching. You have to be consistent by matching registration marks. All of those things are still very, very important. You can't be sloppy or haphazard. If this is your paper and you stitch right here, you can't then go stitch further away or closer. You have to use the same distance through the whole thing. I did not shorten my stitch length beyond a 2 millimeter, which is normal stitching. My stay stitching is usually about a 2, and my stitching is all about a 2. I'm just looking to see now if there's any questions. I can't see everybody's because they come through so fast. There are, I would say, out of that entire quilt, is it Viney or Vinny? I probably replaced about 4 or 5 different fabrics, but I did that before I sewed it together because using the design wall, I could say that fabric is sticking out or it doesn't quite work or it's too close together to its neighbor, and I would change those out before I stitch them. So no, that does take some time. As far as how long did this quilt take from start to finish, don't hit me, but probably 3 days worth of work. And that's quilting it as well. So I probably, maybe let's go to 4 days. 4 days is what I would have spent on it. And I'm just in the zone when I'm doing it, and I'm having fun with the fabric and getting it sandwiched. I will tell you that this is barely basted. Just because I'm using 80-20 cotton batting, it sticks together pretty good. I'm not a safety pin guy, but I didn't have my spray based around when I was doing this, and I didn't want to drive to town to get some because I live too far away. So I put maybe, 15 safety pins in the quilt, and that's not my preferred method of basting, but because it wasn't huge, it was fine. I didn't have any trouble, had no puckers on the back. Oh, that's great, Margaret. It's good to see you. I love you so much. For you guys that don't know, Margaret McCoy is my dear friend in Belfast, Northern Ireland, or at least close to there. Newtown Arts is where she lives. So it's good to see you today, Margaret. Pat, oh, it's good to see. I mean, so many names. I feel bad for those of you whose names I don't know because I wish I knew all of you. So you've been so supportive and so kind to me over the years. And during this difficult time, and for me, it has been extremely difficult. I'm not going to cry in the beer about it, but life is tough right now with all of my events that have been canceled. But so many good things are happening. I cannot encourage you enough. Please, 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 please buy the Lizzie Albright book. 1995. Go to lizziealbright.com. Buy the Lizzie Albright novel. It will be to you in the next 2.5 to 3 weeks. And get your kids involved. I want a new generation of sewers. The book is going to help us do that. So go get your kids involved. Go get them to do the scavenger hunt. Make them want to read the book. And we are going to have some big fun coming up with all the things that are coming up. On Thursday, I'll be sharing with you the Lizzie Albright quilt and talking about that and talking about some of the things that we can do in that to make it work. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I can't believe they both came together so quickly. You guys, I guess I'm gonna say goodbye. Yes, I'm sewing to the left of the stay stitching, back where the paper was. So I'm just to the left of the stay stitching, that little tiny breath distance. Let me show you the back. Here, that'll help if I do that. I didn't realize it makes sense to me sometimes. So as you look at this, the stitching that is closer to the edge, no, we can't do that. The stitching that is closer to the edge was my stay stitching, and the stitching that's just inside of that is my stitching that I use to sew it together. So that's what the back side looks like. Marilyn, be free, be yourself. That's exactly what you need to do. All right, you guys, I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Mark your calendars, come back. Let's have some good times together. I love you all. God bless you all. Please stay safe as we move forward. So I'll talk to you all later. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.